Okay, so it looks like most everybody's joined us, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Before I move on to the next slide, I do want to point out that there is a questions chat that you guys can submit questions in. So just to get things going, how about we're going to do like a little icebreaker. Don't worry, you don't have to talk, but just put in that questions chat, maybe what your go-to coffee order is, just to make sure that's working. So I'll go through, read those. If you don't like coffee, you can say it's trash. If you're a tea person, throw that in there. We just want to make sure that chat is working. So that way, my co-host Amanda will be able to answer those throughout the webinar later. We have one, I don't drink coffee, so that's a good sign the chat's working. Um, Strawberry acai refreshers, that's my boyfriend's go-to. So I think that must be a popular one. Let's see. We have a few more coming in. Iced coffee, we have hot chocolate, salted caramel, pink drinks, that's a classic. I remember we survived on those in college. Green tea. Okay, so this is perfect. These are coming in. Yes, this is where you're sending messages. I see your message, so that's good. I'll go ahead, as you guys keep throwing those in there, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So my name's Hannah Gunderson. I'm on the professional services team. So I do a lot of training. I do these webinars, and then same with Amanda. She's also on our professional services team. You may have heard us before if you've been to webinars, but if not, you'll probably get familiar with us. We do these every month, so you can always look out for those. And I'm going to go to the next screen just to show you guys a little bit about Omegafy. So why we exist is because we believe dreaming big together fuels our growth. Dreams is a big part of Omegafy. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you some of our company's values while Amanda gives you a little bit of information about Omegafy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda, as Hannah said, and I'm with the professional services team. Omegafy, we've been around for more than 30 years. We provide technology solutions to help customers manage their finances, streamline their operations, recruit new members, and communicate with their members. We are based out of Columbus, Georgia, and we securely process more than 1.1 million per day for our clients and have securely processed more than 4 billion since 1992. We're also deeply committed to serving, promoting, and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience. And we're passionate about what we do, and it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so they can focus on their mission and having fun. So I'll hand it back over to Hannah.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm going to move now over to oh my gosh, I went too far, to the agenda for the webinar today. So today is all about prepping for this new term. Most of you are on the spring term, but if you're a quarter school, you may be on winter going into spring. Also just clean up. So we know a lot of you are new officers, or maybe you have officer transitions coming up. So I made a little checklist that we're going to go through. So next slide, you actually just saw a little preview of it because I went too far, is that prep and cleanup checklist. So I'll let you guys screenshot that. I'm also going to take a picture of it on my phone, and then we're going to move on into the vault demo where I'm going to go through each step and show you guys that although it may look like a lot of steps, it goes pretty quickly. After that, we'll do the live Q&A, so you guys can use this question chat again to ask any questions. If throughout the webinar you want to ask them, you can go ahead and do that. I know I have my brain will forget something in 3 seconds. So just shoot those questions in there as we go along. Amanda will submit answers to you guys, but if we think it's something good to hear for everyone, we'll read the question out loud and then go over it. We won't say your name or anything, so it is anonymous. And then after that, I'm going to show you guys the Vault Help Center and give you the contact information that your chapter can use to reach out to y'all's support team. So going over one slide, here's the prep and cleanup checklist. So like I said, I'm going to be going through this like start to finish with you guys. So I'm just taking my phone out to take a picture of this. You guys can feel free to do the same. We're also sending a recording of this webinar within the next 2 days. I think Amanda will be sending it out to y'all. So if you ever want to refer back, you didn't take the picture now, or maybe you can't, you can always refer back and get this list, write it down, save it, do whatever you want with it. So if everybody has that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Vault so we can start the demo. Let me pull this up. Okay, we should be looking at Vault. Does everybody see that? If you just want to throw something in there, Amanda, if you can tell me if you can see it.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So looking at our prep and cleanup checklist, we're just going to start from the top and go down. I'm a little biased because I wrote it, but this really is in the best order. If you go in order to do this, it'll be the quickest because finishing some of these checklist items is going to help you save time later on through this checklist, and you'll see it'll make more sense when I show you. So just trust that it's in the right order, and we're just going to start from the top. So first, we're going to remove alumni and other non-returning members. We're going to start by going to the chapter tab, and we're going to go look at update member statuses. Now, something I'm going to have to give like a little disclaimer here is some of y'all have your account set up differently based on your national organization. So if you're going here and you don't see like this update member statuses, or another way to quickly check it is if you go to add new members and there's not this like add members in mass or add member button, that means you add your members and do your membership updates outside of Omegafy, outside of Vault. And then we have an integration that runs and we'll just update it once you do it there. So you'll have to do that on your national organization's like external database. Once you submit and save everything there, it'll automatically push into Vault. You don't have to worry about it. So these next steps may not directly apply to you the way you're going to see it, but there's still things you're going to have to do. So if it's not in Vault, just make sure you're doing this on your external database. So again, we're going to go to update member statuses. At the top, you're going to see there's this filter by. Usually non-returning members aren't going to be new members, but they could be. They could be people who depledge, or maybe they transferred before they could be initiated. So it could be under here, but I'm going to switch this to initiate because that's most likely where those members are going to be. And what I'm going to do is just scroll down and I'm going to archive, or not, excuse me, not archive. I'm going to update the people who were now going to be alumni. So we'll say they graduated in December. So I have these 3 people at the bottom. And I'm going to go to the top and it's going to say change to, we don't want them to be new members. We want them to be alum because they graduated. You're going to see that gets rid of this member status reason really quick. If they were something like disassociated, or suspended, others, sometimes you get this member status reason right here. So you could say they were expelled. Maybe they just chose to no longer be in the organization, or maybe they didn't, as new members, reach the minimum requirements, so they get released or they're uninitiated. So those are options there. But when it comes to alum, the member status reason is kind of a given, which is they graduated. So we'll just scroll to the bottom. If you want to put in their date of graduation, you can. So maybe it was December 1st is when they all graduated. And then you'll go ahead and click Update Member Statuses. And then you can see down here, there's a green banner and it says they have been updated successfully. So now they're all listed as alumni, and it's going to go to that filtered alumni section so you can see them listed here. Same thing if you have new members who maybe last term weren't initiated, or excuse me, were initiated, but you didn't update their status. We're going to want to do this now. So that is the second item on this checklist, is making sure last term's initiated members are listed as initiates. So if we go here and we see these new members, all of these people were not added this term and they were all initiated. Maybe I just forgot to go in last term and update them as initiated, or maybe it was the last officer. Whatever it may be, we can always update them now. So we're going to click this box. This will check everybody listed here, or if you wanted to manually do it, you can just click like this. I'm just going to do all of them because I do have all the members. You're going to see it's automatically going to say change to initiate. Now, if they were suspended, disassociated, again, you can choose those statuses, but I'm going to mark these people as initiates. And then the member status reason, we don't need a reason because it's just kind of, again, a given, which was they're initiated. So I'll scroll to the bottom. I'll click Update Member Statuses. I'm just going to take a second to load. And there we go. It says that green banner, and then it's going to show them as initiates. So if we go to new member, you're going to see we no longer have any new members listed, and that's because we updated them. So Before I move to the next section, I'm going to give another quick little disclaimer. Depending on your national organization, instead of updating new members like that, you may have to submit an initiation report. So this is kind of like a third way that you may have to go about doing this. So if you're not doing it in Vault like this, and you're not doing it in an external database, you may have to submit an initiation report. So in that case, between House and Billing, you're going to see a tab with your national organization. And if you click that under there, it'll say Member Initiation Reporting, or it'll be under Chapter. You can find it here. And you'll have to go through and submit an initiation report that way. And then once your national or international headquarters approves that, then it's going to update their new member status from new member to initiate. So it'll be done that way. So just if you're going through this, it looks a little weird, just double check that, check with an advisor, old officer, and they'll be able to tell you which way you have to do it. But this is just kind of like the most basic way of doing that. So now that we have moved those new members to initiates, we actually have to add the new members for this term. So again, I'm going to go to Chapter, Add New Members this time. And it's going to load. If it was only maybe 1 or 2 members you got, maybe you were doing COB for your organization, something like that, you can click this Add Member button, and it'll let you just fill in the blanks here and put in their name. And then you click Save and Continue, and it'll automatically send them a registration email so they can set up their Omega Phi account. But if you have like a whole pledge class and you don't want to go through one by one, you can add members en masse. You'll just click this button. Download this template. You can format it into a CSV if you want, but this basically has everything formatted for you. And all you have to do is fill in the blank on Excel. So if you click Download Template and click into here, you'll see you have all the different columns already pre-filled in, and all you have to do is fill in these rows. When you click this, you'll see some of them have a star. That means you do have to fill in that information, but if it's something like middle name and there's no star, if you don't have that information or you don't want to put it in, just leave it blank. So you'll just have to do first name, last name, email address are going to be the main ones you have to put in. I've already pre-filled out one of those just to save time on this webinar. So I'm going to click Browse, and then if I go to my downloads, I'll be able to see it right here, and I'll click Open. And then I'm going to click Upload. And I used names from Bridgerton, so you may recognize them. I just saw a bunch of posts about it on my Instagram feed, so I got inspired. But that's where these names are pulled from. So you can see it looks at the Excel file and it fills in the information we have. So we have their first names, their last name, their emails are all listed. These are all test emails, but it works for the sake of what we're doing. Member status, I have pre-filled in as new member, but if it was something, maybe you guys got like a transfer member or something like that, you can have them come in as an initiate if they were initiated in their other chapter, but I have it all set to be new member. The billing group is going to default to temporary. If you know what billing group they're going to be in, you can set it now. If not, just leave it as temporary because they may have to talk with you, maybe enroll in like a payment plan option or an info option. So you can leave that as temporary. And then I did put in a pledge date for them and a birthday, and then the rest of these are blank if you keep scrolling. So now that those are all in, I can go to the bottom and click Submit. And then you can see that these members were now added to the roster. Another way we can see it is if we go to our member roster here, you'll be able to see them listed. If we organize by member status, we now have new members down here at the bottom. So that's the next step. Once you have all those new members in, you're pretty much good on updating your roster for the semester. Now this is your chapter roster. This is the one that your national office probably uses, but there is another roster we're going to update later on, which is the billing roster, and that's the one Omega Phi uses. I'll explain why that's important in a second. But before we move on to that, we're still going to do one more thing under this chapter tab, and that's update officers. So if you're following along on the checklist, that is the next thing listed. So we'll click officers here. And what you're going to do is just click Edit Officers. And then we're finally going to demote. If you've been to these webinars before, you know Peter has been the treasurer forever, but I'm finally going to relieve him of his position. So we're going to say their end date was all the 15th. So we'll fill those in. This person's end date has been in there for a minute. And then we're going to put the new officer in. So we can scroll through whoever you guys elected is obviously the ones you're going to pick, but I'm going to just kind of go through these and maybe like randomly fill them in. Maybe Peter's the president now, so maybe instead of demoting him, we'll let him become president. Again, we're just going to keep going through. And let's pick one more. I'm going to go with maybe William. Okay. The from date is going to be today. And I'm going to make the end date maybe a year from now. So you can, or maybe we'll go to the end of December. How about that? Okay. So again, this is a little bit tedious, but once you get it done, you don't really have to worry about it because the next officer is going to do it for you. So this is kind of a one-time deal for you. As I do this, I am going to emphasize that this step right here is super important. This is the list that we use at Omegafy, so we know who we are and are not allowed to talk to. So if you are the new officer, but the old officer hasn't gone in and listed you as a Vault user and as this position, if you reach out to us or you reach out to the support team asking, about information on the account or asking to update things or anything else like that, we're not going to be able to speak to you just because you aren't listed as somebody who's authorized to work on the account. So make sure you definitely go in. This should be like super important on the top of your priority list to get through and get this done. So that way, when you reach out throughout the semester, we're able to help you guys with what you need help with instead of basically setting you back and asking you to get another officer, maybe the old officer, to log in again and update you as the new one. So once this is all done, we now have a list of people we're able to speak to, and that's really great. But I'm going to show you one more step another step that's part of officer transitions and updating this officer list that may not be as obvious, which is also updating their Vault access. So you're going to click this little gear icon here. You're going to click Vault users. This account makes it super easy to kind of tell who the old officer is, and that's because they don't have their officer title listed. So here you can see Peter still has access. He had access before as an old officer. Now he's the president. But these other people no longer have a title, which means they're no longer an officer for your fraternity or sorority. So we're going to click the little trash can icon by their name, and we're going to remove their Vault access. Now this isn't going to delete their Omegafy account or anything. They'll still be able to log into that and pay dues. This just removes their access to Vault, so that way they can't see all of this kind of private information that's really reserved for officers and officers only. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to delete a couple of these. I'm not going to make you guys watch me delete all, but you get the idea. You're going to go through, click the trash can for all these people who no longer have a title, all those old officers that aren't officers anymore, remove them. Something I do want to point out, if you see anyone listed as international staff, please leave those. They have to be there. It's just a requirement that we have. So if you do remove them, we will keep adding them back. If it's somebody who's not an international staff member, so maybe it's like an advisor, something like that, you are able to add and remove them. So if you have an old advisor, by all means, go in, remove their Vault access. And if you need to add another user, you'll just click this button, or you can add an advisor under this contact section and then add them as a Vault user. So I'm going to go back to officers because I truthfully can't remember who I made our new treasurer really quick. And it's Grant. Okay. So we're going to go back to Vault users. I'm not going to add the rest of these officers because maybe they don't need to use Vault, but we for sure need our treasurer added. So I'm going to add user. And then from here, I'll get the dropdown of all the users in your chapter. Grant is going to be the officer. So the user reason is undergraduate officer. And then we have to give them access. So generally, presidents and treasurers almost always have full manage access. That means they can go to this tab, the administration tab, or communication, or chapter, whatever these are, and not only can they view everything, they can edit. So they can make those membership status updates, they can do all of that stuff. If we were to set something to view, that means they can click on the tab, but they aren't able to edit or change anything, so they can't use any of the features. They basically can just look at it. So in this case, Grant's going to need full manage access to everything. Again, it's pretty common for presidents to have full manage access, but your chapter, I'm sure has like written in their bylaws, or you can check with your other officers, like who needs access to what. Same with other positions, maybe you have like your, your social chair or something like that needs to have vault access to the communication tab so they can email your members, but they don't necessarily need to see people's individual accounts and their dues and everything else like that. You can give them just manage access here, and then everything else will be no access. So just go through that based on the position, give people the access that they need. And really quick, I'll point out under national, this says no access. It's just because it's a test account. So we don't have a national tab, but y'all's chapters should have one. If y'all partner with the Megafy, you'll see it listed, and it'll have your like Greek letters listed, so you can give them access, view access, or no access to that tab. So I'm going to click submit here, and that's now given Grant permission. He'll be able to log into his account, switch to Vault, do all the things he needs to do to edit. And then here again, you can see if you click their name, review of that. Now going on to the next. Oh my goodness, don't know. I'm going back to my checklist. Going on to the next thing, now that we've updated Vault user access, we're going to start updating those billing statuses, which is that second roster I was telling you. The reason we have two is for situations like if somebody was study abroad, maybe they're an active sister or brother in your organization, but they aren't going to be billed, you'll want to mark them as inactive billing. That's why we've separated the rosters. We also, Megafy uses this billing roster to determine how we charge you guys. So most of you are going to be paying per member per semester. And the way we determine that is the number of people you have listed in active billing when your first round of dues go out for the term. So here you can see this chapter, we have 57 members. So that means if we were to send Spring Cycle 1 out today, Megafy is going to charge them for 57 people. Now, if you didn't update this and you have all your alumni still in active billing, which I believe in this case we do, this chapter, for example, will be paying for 3 people they probably shouldn't be paying for. So that's why it's really important to update this, and that's why it's the next thing on our checklist. Now, the reason I had you guys update membership statuses first is because there's kind of a quick way to go about this, which is go into the billing tab and you can review roster and billing discrepancies. So here you can see everybody listed that has a status like alumni or depledge or disassociated, suspended, expelled, any of those, kind of inactive type categories, and our system looks at it and it says this member status looks like they should be inactive, but right now they are in active billing and we think you should update that. So here's where you'll go to do that. You'll check the boxes, but you'll notice here we have this exclamation point. That's because this person has vault access. If you want to move someone to inactive billing, they can't have vault access. So again, we're going to see this as Nancy. We're going to go up here to the thing, vault users. If you went fully through the checklist, which I cut a corner and I didn't want to delete all of these, if you had actually gone through and deleted all your old officers, you wouldn't have to go back here. But in my case, I just wanted to be able to show you guys what that would look like if you did accidentally miss someone. So we went back here. We're going to look for Nancy's name, which is here, and we're going to remove the vault access. It clicks OK, and you can see it's been deleted. We're going to go back to review roster and billing discrepancies, and you can see she's now eligible to be moved to inactive. So I'm going to select this here. They're going to go to inactive. There's only one thing they can switch to. There's not a bunch of options like there are with membership statuses. So it defaults to inactive. You can't change it to anything. And then here you can give the reason. We personally don't really care what you guys put this in for, but if you want to keep really clean records, I recommend keeping this as accurate as possible. So if you did have somebody who was study abroad, like let's say maybe it was Mike, I would only check these two, mark them alumnus, click update billing statuses, and then I would go in and do the next group and I would select Mike, and maybe it's temporary. So I could go click here and it's going to say temporary inactive. Or I could choose abroad, whatever it may be, you can do it that way. Now, in this case, he is an alum, so I'm going to choose alum, but that is a way you would break it up if you have, multiple groups of people going to an inactive billing status for different reasons. So again, we'll click this, update it. And now we can see that there's no discrepancies, but it's still good to just give it another once over, go back to your member list by billing group, and then just go through here to make sure that all the members you have listed in active billing actually are active in your chapter and don't need to be moved to an inactive billing status. Next, we're going to go ahead and update billing groups. So again, we're going to go to the billing tab, click update billing groups. Sometimes this is confusing for new officers or people who are just getting used to Vault, but the easiest way to think about it, billing statuses are determining whether or not you're going to be billed, and billing groups determine how you're going to be billed. So here you can see there's no filter. It's kind of got a little bit of everybody listed. But what I want to do is I'm going to filter it by maybe the new member group, see if anybody's listed in there. And you can see all of these people are in the new member billing group. But if you remember from earlier, we did move all of our past new members to active. And then when we added new members, we put them in a temporary billing group. So I know that none of these people are new members anymore, except for this last one. So I'm going to go ahead and click here for a new member. Oh, yeah, click new member, change billing group to, and then we'll do active. And then we're going to click update billing group. Sorry, I almost confused myself for 1 second. And then it updates that. You can also go through your other billing groups. Now, if you guys have like in-house, out-of-house, you're going to want to make sure you go through each billing group one by one to make sure that old people, old tenants who lived in the house that maybe no longer are there, moved out, or if it's a payment plan and maybe someone's choosing to enroll in like a in full payment, that you move them. So you're just going to want to go through one by one and assign them that way. For the sake of this webinar, I'm not going to make you guys look at each one of these, especially because none of these members are real. So everything we'd be doing is just made up. But that's the gist of it. You can filter it by billing groups and then just make sure everybody is updated. And if you need to change them, you'll change them here. Another quick shortcut would be for those new members that we added that were in temporary billing groups. Something you're always going to want to check is assign members without billing groups. So here we can see these are all our new members that we just added. This is one that I added earlier just to test that. I'm a little rusty, so I had to make sure I still remembered how to do it. So I'm going to put this person in an active billing group, but the rest of these are going to go into our new member billing group. So I'm going to do new member. Oops, I should have done it up here to do it in mass. So I'm going to do new member like this, and then for her, I'm just going to switch it to active. And now that these are checked, once I click update, it's going to update it based on the billing group here. If you didn't want to do it like in mass, how I just did it, you could, opt out of doing that, and then you'll just go through the drop down, and then maybe you can enroll certain people in the payment plan if that's where they need to be. Once that looks good, you'll go ahead and click update billing group. And now everybody on your roster is assigned to a billing group. So when you get back to this page, nobody will be listed, and that's great. So if you're going through this step in the checklist and you see no one's there, don't panic. That just means you guys already have everybody assigned to a billing group, and you'll just want to make sure that they're in the correct one. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to reviewing like the billing and statements and everything else for the semester. So we're going to go to billing overview. What we're doing here is confirming that the upcoming term's billing is set up and that it's correct. So in this case, you can see we're still in fall 2023. I can't select spring 23 or 24, and that's because we haven't created it yet. Because this is a test account, I don't want to go through and set it up. I think that would take a long time, and it's just kind of weird because it's not a real account. But if you go here and you see you're in fall and you need to be in spring, which everybody should be in spring unless you're a quarter school, then you're probably in winter going into spring. But if you don't see winter 24 or spring 24, you're going to have to go ahead and click setup billing, and it's going to walk you through the steps. I can actually click this and kind of show you. I won't go through the whole thing, but really quick, you'll just see here that it truly is fill in the blank. So you just click spring 24, and then it drops down more blanks for you to fill in. You can pick due dates and just go through it. It's pretty foolproof, and if you do something and you decide later that you don't like it, it'll either let you edit it, or if it doesn't let you edit it, you can reach out to the support team, your chapter support team, and here at Omegafy, like, we'll go ahead and update the billing for you. So don't panic when doing this. Just go through the blanks, fill them in, get it as correct as you can get it, and then if something needs to be changed later, we can always fix it. So going back to billing overview, for the sake of this webinar, we'll pretend that instead of fall 23, let's say this is the spring billing. If you do see it set up, I still want you to go through and check that everything's correct. So I want you to go through the cycles and make sure that these dates are correct. If you don't know how the different dates work, statement date is the date that everybody's going to get the statements in their email, or if they opted for paper statements or they haven't paid their dues in a couple due dates, we mail them statements. That's the day we'll mail them out or email them, and then they will have until the due date to pay their dues. So here you could see the dates we used for last semester. Now this late after date, this is something that really you guys can choose for yourself, but you kind of want to keep it to yourself. It basically is a grace period that your members can pay in and not get a late fee. So you can see this chapter has late fees turned on. If you guys don't use late fees, then honestly, this is kind of irrelevant to you. It'll still be there, but the date doesn't really matter, and you'll see that your late fees say no. But this late after date is basically saying, even if their payment didn't post on the 15th, as long as it posted before the 22nd, they won't get a late fee on their account. Now, the reason I say don't tell your members about this grace period is because it's they're basically going to wait until the 22nd, some of them, the people who really procrastinate. And then if they make a payment on the 22nd and it doesn't post till the 23rd, then they're going to be emailing you complaining that they posted it on time, but it didn't go on their account on time, and now they have a late fee they shouldn't get, yada, yada, yada. So if they just know to go off of this due date, which is the only date that's going to be on their statement, that way if they do make the payment exactly on the 15th and it takes a day to post, or maybe it's a holiday so it doesn't post for 2 days or whatever it may be, they'll still be within this window and they won't get a late fee, and that's just going to save you a bunch of texts and emails and calls and whatever else of parents contacting you asking why things don't look correct or why they got charged a late fee when they shouldn't have. So I want to go through, double check that these dates look good, and then you'll scroll down, and here you can see is where the billing group names are listed. So this one's active payment plan, and you'll just want to go through, make sure everything looks good. If you don't like the way it looks, this is where you're going to click edit charges. You can change it. If you don't have this button, you're just going to want to email the support staff, and then you're just going to say, hey, for maybe the active payment plan group, can we get our IFC dues increased to $20? And they'll go ahead and do that for you and then email you once it's done. It's a pretty quick turnaround, so you don't have to worry about it taking too long. So just go through, make sure all of this looks good for the semester, and then once this is set for the semester, you honestly don't have to worry about your members billing unless someone comes to you, maybe wants to switch to like a payment plan group or something. But for the most part, this is just going to do all the work for you. So just put in the work up front, and then you don't have to worry about it until later. If this looks good, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and update the statement contact or confirm that it's right. So this is the contact information that goes on those emailed and mailed statements, and this is how your members know to reach out to you. So if you're the outgoing treasurer, or if you're president, the contact, whoever the statement contact is, or maybe you're the new one and this is not your name listed, you're going to want to update it. So in this case, we know we updated the treasurer to Grant. So we're going to put in Grant Green. I truthfully can't remember if there's an E at the end of their last name or not, but I'm just going to go with no. And if it's wrong, I'm sorry. And then here we're going to put in their email address. So it was ggreen@test.com. And then this is the statement message here. So a lot of them will have like put in a default message, but you are able to customize this. So if you wanted to add a different statement message, you can. Our only rule is that it really has to be appropriate. So please don't use any, like inappropriate language or anything offensive or whatever it may be. I don't think y'all would do that, but I just always give the little note, make sure it's appropriate because your members are seeing it, your parents are seeing it. it's going on a permanent document. So you just want to make sure that always looks nice. If we do see something that doesn't look okay, we're probably going to switch it back to this default right here. So just keep that in mind and know that if you keep switching it back, we'll also keep switching it back because it has to be appropriate. Once this looks good, we'll just go ahead and click Update Statement Contact Information. And now whenever those statements go out going forward, it's going to have Grant's information listed instead of Peter's. And that way your members' parents, or whoever's paying the bills will know who they can reach out to if they have any questions. Next on the checklist, we're really coming to the end, I promise. So thank you guys for holding out. Is adding any transactions, missing transactions for last semester. Now, billing transactions probably won't be missed because if you have the cycle set up, it's going to automatically add them. But maybe somebody, joined your chapter late and they need to add charges. Or in this case, the example I'm going to use is maybe December's last chapter meeting. The people who didn't show up, you fine them $10 for not showing up to chapter. But with December, you were like, I'm ready for winter break. You left and you didn't put in those fines. Now is just the time that you want to make sure you go back and do that. So you're going to go here, add transactions to a group, or if it's a bunch of different transactions, you can go to add transactions in mass. Add transactions in mass just lets you do a bunch of different types of transactions for different people. But I am going to do it in a group because I'm just going to do those missing chapter fines. So what I'm going to do is go here, wait for it to load a second. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to pick a few people. So maybe it was just this group right here, these four skip chapter, and it was unexcused. So I'm going to select their names. I'm going to click next step. And then it's going to let me fill in that one-off transaction. So it's going to be a charge. Description is going to say missing chapter fine. The income account there, I'm going to use fine. Fines, you guys should have this one, or if you have a different income account you use, whatever you guys use for your accounting, just make sure you use the correct one. So I'm going to use fines, and the amount is just going to be $10. Once we have that, we click next step, and then that's going to have us review it. So I'm going to look at that, say it all looks good, create transaction, and now it's going to post on their account. Today it is pending, so if you review it, say it looks good, click post, and then you're like, oh wait, we actually upped it to 15. You can reach out to your support person. We can delete it as long as it's the same day because it's pending. But tomorrow is when it's actually going to post. So that's when they'll see it on their account and they can go ahead and pay that. So that will just be adding any missing transactions from last term. Next, we're going to go to archiving old members. Now, this is just like a quick cleanup. I would not recommend archiving people who are just temporarily gone because it's not a pain, but it is a few extra steps to bring them back from archived. By archiving a member, you're going to remove them from Vault, so you won't see them on your Vault anymore, but we will still keep their records. So if anything ever came up and you need their account back, you can reach out and we can put their account back on your Vault. It's just a way to clean it up. Because this is a test account, I'm not going to be able to archive anyone because nobody paid their dues because they're not real. But on y'all's, you'll see that they have to meet two criteria. One, they have to have a membership status that's some sort of inactive. So again, alumnus, dissociated to pledged, expelled, whatever it may be. One of those they'll have to have, and they'll have to have a $0 balance on their account. So as long as they've paid their dues, or maybe if they have like maybe a fine on their account for $10 and it's a really old member, you don't even know them, it's from before when you were even a new member, you can go ahead and forgive it if you wanted. And then the next day archive them. So you'll just go again to billing, archive members, and it'll let you guys select the boxes here, click archive members, and it'll completely take them off Vault for you. And then it'll just be saved on the Megafy backend in case you guys ever need it. Last three things are all under the bill pay tab. Actually, last three things, only two under the bill pay tab, and then one is just the notifications. Make sure that you pay any outstanding bills. So you're going to go to payments and you're going to want to make sure these are all posted. You can see this one's unpaid. So if I just click it, if I wanted to add a payment, I can click add payment. Again, this is a test account, so there's no real money on it. So there's no money for it to be paid. But you can add a payment, and then for your chapter, if you have the money available, Megafy will go ahead and send that check for you guys. Or if you don't have enough money, even adding the payment it will be ready. So as soon as money gets put into the account, the thing's already, your payment's already approved, ready to go. We'll cut the check as soon as there's money. So just click add a payment, or if it's listed here and it needs to be approved, there'll be a little checkbox. You click the checkbox, and that just lets our bill pay team know that they can send out those payments. If you needed to add one, you can go ahead and click add. Here you have all your different options, refund and reimbursement. A lot of times these get confused. Easiest way to think about it is refund would be for somebody paying too much on their Megafy account. So refund is giving your members back money that was given to you through a Megafy. Reimbursements are going to give your members back for money they spent outside of a Megafy. So an example would be maybe it was recruitment and they went and bought balloons for recruitment on their personal debit card. You would give them a reimbursement because that money didn't go through a Megafy or their Megafy account. You're just paying them back for something they spent outside. So those are those two there. You can add them. Last thing you could do is if it's like an online thing, like maybe utilities or whatever, and you use your officer purchasing card, go ahead and make sure you pay that before we go on to this next step, because that's going to be updating the officer purchasing card. So just go through, make sure you guys are good on your bills, and then you can go to officer purchasing cards. And this is where you're going to want to update it. So you guys can have a free card on your account at all times. So it's not like a one-time deal where the first time you get an officer purchasing card, it was free and everything after that it charges you. It's one free card at all times. So again, test account, we don't have anyone real to enroll, but here listed up here will be your active officer purchasing card or cards. If it's like an outgoing treasurer, once all those bills are paid, you can go ahead, it'll have like an action button right here under the action column, and you can choose to close the card. Once that card's closed, then you can click add card. You'll do for yourself, or if it's for someone else, you can click for others. And then it'll add that card to your Megafy and we'll mail you the card. It's like a physical, like it's pretty much like a prepaid Visa card pretty much, where you can load money onto it and spend it. It'll have your name on it and everything. So that's why you want to make sure you delete the old ones and then order your own, because it does have your name on it. So you'll go here, add it, and then we'll mark it as your free card so you don't get charged. If your chapter needs more officer purchasing cards, that's totally fine. It is $120 for the year, so $10 a month, but we just charge you all at once in your operating fund, and then you can pay for it that way. So if you have multiple officers that need it, again, you'll just click add card, and only one of them will be free and the other ones you'll pay for. That's about it for the checklist. The last thing that's on there is, last thing that's on there is reviewing notifications. So after we go through all that cleanup, this will be your last way of checking if anything's left. This notification bell will tell you exactly what you need to do. So you can go through it. It says assign members. We already did that, so I think that was probably an old one that I just hadn't updated my screen. But you can go through these. Now in this case, update invalid addresses. None of these people are real again, so I can't add addresses, but you want to make sure that these are updated. Set up a new billing cycle, whatever it may be, you're going to go through that and then try to update all of those to make them cleared out. So I know that was a lot. That was 45 minutes of talking. I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint because that's it for the demo for now. And then we're going to move on to our Q&A. I'm sure you guys maybe have some stuff that have come up. So feel free to throw those in the chat and then we can kind of go over them from here. Or if y'all are feeling good, you can also throw in something that says you're feeling good, just so we know. Amanda, do you see anything coming through? I know you're watching the question box.
There's one question about the different vault permissions. Like what does managed, view, no access, what that gives them for each of the different levels?
I can go over that again. Okay, so if we're looking at Vault, you'll notice, here, I'll pull this up really quick. So if we click on them, you'll notice that these different categories here correspond with these tabs. There's a few that don't have exact correlation, but they still kind of go with it. So two examples, this accounting transaction details and bill pay transaction details. Those are new permissions. And it basically just, it's almost like an even deeper ability to manage on that page, but it still just correlates with the tab. So if we go through here, for example, communications, and we go to mass email, let's say, if you have only view on this, you can basically look under the communication tab at like announcements or calendar, polls, resource, whatever it may be, but it's not going to let you edit anything. If you have manage access, you'll be able to click these drop downs, use the different templates, and it'll let you email your members. Or if you have only view, maybe if you go to the resource center, it'll let you view the resources here, but it's not going to let you create, like new files or new categories. You have to have manage access to be able to do that. Another example, if you're looking at the chapter, if you have view access, you'll be able to see this roster, but unless you have manage access, you will not be able to update membership statuses or update their accounts. So if you wanted to go in and edit any of these fields, you have to have manage access. If you only have view, all you can do is look at it. So that's what those are for. If it's no access and you click on one of these, it's basically just going to tell you that you don't have access to the page. So you'll have to reach out to a different officer in your organization if you should have access to get access to the page. And if not, it's just not something that your position probably needs necessarily. We also have in here, I'll go over the Get Help Center or Get Help section a little bit more at the end of the webinar. But in here too, you can look up the different permissions. So you can go what are vault permission levels, and we have some articles in here that break it down even further if you want to read through them and kind of go through, it breaks it down by tab, everything that you'll be able to do. So you can look at it that way.
A couple more questions came in. Someone is asking for any charges like fines, will it not be due until the next billing cycle?
So I feel like the easiest way to explain this is if I pull up the billing overview, because sometimes it can warp your brain a little bit trying to think about it. And of course, it's taken a minute to load. Okay, so if let's, for the sake of this example, pretend that it's like December 1st. If it's December 1st, that means it's after the cycle 4 due date. Those late fees I added are not going to be due on December 15th since they weren't on the statement they received, which means it's not going to be considered due until I set up spring billing and it's spring cycle 1. So yeah, anything added after a statement date will not be due until the following due date, if that makes sense. It just has to, I guess an easier way of thinking about it is that charge has to show up on an official statement date. So if you add it and it hasn't been on a statement, you're going to have to wait till that following statement for it to show up and then use that due date. And one more thing I'll add to that. Just because it's not due on the 15th doesn't mean they can't pay it by the 15th. So if they log onto their account, if they click like the Pay Now button, the Pay Now button's only going to show what's due this due date, but they'll see that that charge is still posted, so they can add that to their payment and get ahead of it and still pay it. So it's not like you have to wait to the next cycle. It's just not going to be considered past due until that next cycle. So I hope that answers the question. I know that one's a little bit tricky. Were there any other questions, Amanda?
There is another question, and I'm trying to make sure that I say it correctly. It seems like there are members that this person has that are in one billing group. A couple of members were under the associate billing group and not initiate. Now they are not receiving the first cycle bill as associates received the bill on the third cycle. Do they need to go in and manually add charges?
I get what they're asking. Oh, sorry,
Okay,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so let me see if this is set up that way. So this test account is a good way of thinking about it. So let's say our member was an initiate, but we forgot to move them out of the new member group. So I think it's the same scenario that you were writing in your question, which is, had they been in the correct billing group, they would have been charged cycle 1, but since they were in this one, they didn't get the charge. Now they're moved here. The way the system works is it pretty much works forward, not backwards. So if they're added before cycle 1 goes out, we'll automatically charge them, the system will. But if they're moved to this after cycle 1 goes out, it's not going to automatically back bill them. You will have to manually do it. So if it's a big group of people or you don't feel comfortable doing that back billing, you can reach out to your support person, or you can go up to billing, add transactions to a group, or add transactions en masse, whatever is going to be fastest for you. And then you'll want to go ahead and add those charges. Just be sure not to do it in a lump sum. So if this was the scenario, they were in this group and they needed to be an active payment plan, don't just throw on like a chapter dues or missed dues charge and it's $225. Make sure you itemize it out the way it was supposed to be had they been in the correct billing group when the system did it automatically. So if you have to take a picture of this or download it or have it on another tab, whatever it is, just make sure you go through and do that the right way. So the description will be the same that it's listed here. They're all going to be charges. The income account's going to match, and you're going to want to make sure those dollar amounts are the exact same, just to ensure that the system moves the money where it needs to go, especially if you guys pay national dues, which a lot of you guys do through Vault. You have to make sure that the income accounts are correct. Otherwise, we're not going to be depositing their payments into the correct bill pay funds, and it's just going to make you a bit of a headache for later.
And we had one more question come through. They are asking, how do they change the billing cycle for individual members who have payment plans?
So if it's, my answer is going to be it depends. So if you have maybe like one payment plan option for your chapter, so maybe at first everybody's in an in full payment, but after that first cycle goes out and they see that it's going to be, well, let's say this was all charged in one, like it was going to be $729 for the semester, and they reach out to you and they're like, I just don't have that. Like, there's no way I can pay that at once. Could I do this in payments? You can create a payment plan billing group if you don't already have one by reaching out to your support team. Or if you do have one, you'll be able to assign them. And the easiest way to do this will be to reach out to your support person, because what we can do on our end is we can actually reverse the in full cycle one charges and then give them the payment plan charges. If it's a group of people, if you want to do it, you can add credits. It doesn't like fully, it'll essentially do the same thing, but it's not going to show up as like a full reversal when you look at your different reports. But if you want to do it on your own, you do it by credits, again, you're going to have to make sure that everything matches up. So you couldn't do just like a big $729 chapter dues credit and just say payment plan as the description, because it's not going to actually like cancel out these charges correctly. What you'll have to do is for each charge they received, you're going to have to add a credit to their account. So if it's a group, I would just make the payment plan billing group, move those members to payment plan, and then reach out to the support team and say like, hey, we had to create this due to some financial situations, like, can you help me update their accounts? And they'll go ahead and help you. If it's something where it's just one member, or you're going to have like, maybe there's like 5 members, but they all have different payment plans, you can make billing groups for them, but it can get a little bit frustrating to manage having to set up so many different billing groups. So another option you could have would be, if you guys have like promissory notes with your chapter, basically, fill that out. I know my chapter in undergrad, it was kind of like fill in the blank. You could say like, here's the total I owe for the semester. This is how many payments I'm going to do it on. These are the dates I'm going to make, X amount dollar payment. And you have to be held to that. And if you don't, then, your membership could be up for discussion, whatever it is. Every chapter has their own bylaws, but you could do it a promissory note. And then what will happen is their Omegafy actually isn't going to change. It'll keep their, the full amount on their account, and you'll just have to give them a heads up that their status may age, meaning when they log in after they miss that first due date, paying it in full, it'll say past due. And then the one after that, it may say severely past due, pending charge off, all these things. But if they're sticking to the payment agreement, that contract or promissory note that you had them sign, they're going to be fine. They may come to you with the concern that their Omegafy account says like, hey, it says I may be sent to collections. Just know Omegafy doesn't ever send anyone to collections. The only way they're sent is if you, the officer, goes to this billing tab, clicks send member to collections. You have to go through a whole process to send them. That's the only way it's going to happen. So they'll be fine. You'll just have to let them know. And then if your chapter has late fees turned on, what you will do in Omegafy is reach out to your support person and say, hey, for these 5 members, we set up outside payment plans with them. Can you just turn off their late fees so that way they're not punished for not paying this in full when we already spoke with them and worked something out? So there's kind of two different ways of doing that, both in a MegaFi and outside of a MegaFi. I hope that answered the question. I think I see one more. They were asking, so charges for chapter dues will be deposited into my chapter account, where national dues will go into the nationals account. If members miss a payment, are you required to pay national dues since they missed one? So again, my answer is going to be it depends, but the way that you can tell for your chapters, if you go to the accounting tab, account registers, we have what's called deposit splits. So down here, if your chapter has a deposit split, it'll be listed. So this test account doesn't have any. If it does, it may say a common one that I think a lot of you guys will have is a national dues and fees fund one. It'll say here national dues. The method will say like income account. And then what will happen is under it, it'll show the income accounts associated with it. So it'll say anything that's national dues and fees, initiation fees, associate dues and fees. When we receive a payment for a charge coded to that, we're going to deposit it into the national dues and fees fund. You may have other ones. So some chapters have like housing ones where if it's if it's meals, rent, security deposit, it's going to go into a housing bill pay fund. You can set them up however you want to deposit. If it's an income account that's not designated to a deposit split down here, it's going to go in your default deposit. So for most chapters, that's their operating fund. But if you guys maybe wanted it to be your checking account, then anything that's coded to an income account that's not a deposit split will go directly into your bank account. It's just however you have your stuff set up. So if you have questions about that, again, you can just reach out to your support person and they can show you or tell you, I guess, how you have your account set up. And if you need to change it, then you can let them know that you want something else to be your default and they'll do it that way. I think that was the last question. Amanda, did you see any more?
No, that was all.
Okay. So while I'm here, again, I'm just going to show you because I'm still in Vault. This Get Help section goes to our Help Center. And here is where you can find help articles that pretty much answer any question you could possibly have on Vault. I will say the search feature is really good, but it's not like Google good. I don't think anyone can be Google. So if you're going to use the search feature, try not to necessarily type in, or at least this is how I do it, a little tip. I don't type in full questions. What I'll do is keywords. So if I need to find something like I want to know how to update a billing status, I'll probably just type in billing status, click search, and then it's just going to pull articles. And of course, this top one here is how to update billing statuses. It's a little bit easier than trying to type in a question, because if you don't type the question exactly how it's written in the article title, then it may not pop up. So I would just use keywords for whatever you're searching, and you can get help there. Another thing you can do is go to this video webinar section. We upload all of our webinars here. So even this one will eventually be put up here in the next day or two. You can always refer back or see old ones. There's different help videos. So if you don't like reading, or maybe you're just someone who needs to see things visually, you can go to this video section and do it that way. But now I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint one last time so you guys have all of that contact information I was telling you about. Okay, here you can see the email is operations, there is an S there, support@omegafi.com. That's how you can reach out to your support team. If you want to text, you can text here. Now just a heads up, this is for you guys and you guys only, so don't give this text number to your members, because if members who are not officers text us, we can't answer. We don't offer support that way. But any question you have on Vault or updating your chapter, or if you use like 990 filing through Vault or whatever, you can always text and ask that way, and it's going to go to your designated support team. It works like a normal texting number, so if you have to send a screenshot, maybe you're getting an error, it's always good to send a screenshot with it so we can see what you have going on. And they all go to our work laptops, so if it's during a normal work day, we'll be able to answer it. If it's over the weekend, just send whatever questions you have come up. As they come up, you can double text, triple text, quadruple text. We really don't mind. And then on Monday, when we come back in, we'll go through and make sure we answer all of your questions. So you can text that way, save this number in your phone. You can also call. This 800 number is for both officers, parents, your members, whatever, because when you call this 800 number, it's going to give you a bunch of different like options. So you can select line 1 for whatever it may be, or select for login help or officers. So just go through and listen. There should be one for officers or admin of accounts. That'll be you guys. You just click that number, and then it's going to connect you again with your support team so you can get an answer super quick. Again, that is also like regular business hours. So I believe it's 9 to 5:15 or 5. I want to say it's like 9 to 5 that's available. So you can just call whenever and get immediate help. There's rarely a wait. And if there's a wait, it's probably not going to be more than like 5 minutes. There's always a bunch of people available for you to talk to. So feel free to call in. And then that last one is that in-app get help. So again, that was just the help center. I showed you can go there and search for stuff that way. But that should be it for today. I'm just double checking really quick to see if we have any more last minute questions, and I don't see any. So like I said, Amanda will be sending you guys a recording of this in the next 2 days, I believe. And then I'll also upload it to our YouTube channel and then put it on the Help Center under the videos and webinars, and you guys will be able to reference back whenever you would like to. So again, thank you for joining me. I know we went 4 minutes over, but I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks.